So now let's move on to the module 2, which was software development life cycle. This is not directly related to the testing, but it is like how a software has been how the whole software development life cycle goes, like from collecting the requirement to the end phase, like when it is being deployed in the end customer, or you can call it as a customer. So there are many phases. It has been evolved actually. Previously there was waterfall method. It is very traditional way, and it has been evolved so much. So there are many software development models. So we'll go into that. Before that, I have covered these differences between this manual and automation testing, and I have also mentioned with an example like ICICI Bank release 1 to 10, why automation is required in that case, how is automation relevant, and how is manual testing also equally important, etc. So we will discuss that with an example now. So I have mentioned an example about the ICICI or any banking website. So let us see that in little bit detail, because it is very important why a software tester has to know the automation testing as well, and how automation also is evolving. It is not related to manual testing, but it is important why you have to know the automation as well. Yes, of course, manual testing will be available, manual testing will be there, and manual testers are important, but you have to for that have a wide domain knowledge. And and obviously many companies are looking into reducing the testing life cycle, or the period of testing, so that it will helps in more ways like cost cutting, everything, etc. So we discussed about ICICI, so we will go with the same ICICI bank website, or you can keep it as any bank website, any bank website. So I mentioned you earlier, like ICICI bank website, it is not new. It has been developed previously itself, like it would have developed some 4 5 years back itself. So they might have had one release one, release two, release three, release four, etc. You keep it as now the current release is release 20. Okay, so what for before that, what is regression testing? Regression testing is a functionality to test whether all the previous release functionalities are working fine for the current release. Okay, so in other words, for example, there might have a release 14. So see, this regression testing is very crucial. What is regression testing is, first, like when you are doing this is a current release. When you are doing the release of this current release, so you have to verify whether all the previous releases functionalities are still working properly. So this current release, for example, you keep it like you may all know, like there is a two payment method in any bank application. One is like NEFT, and one is like IMPS. It is, we will take just this functionality as an example. So this banking website, it is a very crucial website. So anyway, any application is a very crucial application. All the applications, this regression testing should be done properly for all the applications. The previous release functionalities are equally important. I am not saying any application is less important or any application is more important. I took the example of a banking website because the banking website, all the previous functionalities working properly is very crucial, because it mostly depends on the reputation of the bank and more cost involved. See, for example, I can say you like ICICI is you are transferring money through an ICICI bank or any bank. You are transferring from person one to person two, who is your friend or anything. So, for example, when you are transferring this person one some amount to person two, instead of that, it went to person three. It is a big bug in ICICI or any banking application. This transferring money they would have given this application, maybe this module would have been developed in the release 2. Transferring money would have got released in release 2 itself, because it is a basic functionality of any banking application. So they would have done that in release 2 itself, or maybe in release 1 itself, transferring money. But it release 2 itself, this transfer person 1, when you are transferring to person 3, it is a huge, and they would have definitely identified that issue in release 2 itself, and they would have rectified. But if this got problem, then it is a huge reputation for the bank is lost, huge cost involved, and you have to do analysis like how it got a issue like that and everything. So in this current release, so here NEFT will be something like in release 2, maybe some 2 years back they did NEFT time for transferring money might be 6 hours that time. And IMPS, you all, I think you all know the difference between NEFT and IMPS. NEFT is something like when you transfer the money, it will go and credited in the other payee account, maybe in some time like 4 hours, 6 hours. Now many banking application, they have reduced it to 2 hours, 1 hour, etc. And IMPS is something like it will get transferred immediately in the current scenario, immediately to the beneficiary account. So in release 2, it may be some 2-3 years back, NEFT time for, you would have observed like previously this NEFT time is more, IMPS time is also minimum, it will take 1 or 2 hours. So previously it was like NEFT time for transferring money is 6 hours and IMPS is 2 hours maybe, which has been developed in release 2. So, and all know that IMPS is immediate transfer now. So this is a new functionality in release 20. Like they are upgrading their system, like NEFT has to be reduced to 2 hours and IMPS has to be reduced to 1 hour. So what the developer will do, he will take the release 2 code and he will do the modifications to 2 hours and 1 hour. So it anyway that other banking backend banking process will be running. It will go and verify the payee beneficiary account details. It will go and verify that it is going to get transferred to the particular beneficiary only whom you are transferring. This all goes on backend. Okay, we will not worry about that. So before coming to this regression testing will be mostly carried out in the maintenance cycle of any software project. For example, it is release 1, release 2, release 3. You have to understand that first, like release 4. So in maybe in release 3 or release 4, or maybe you can see like these phases will go like when release 1 happens, internally the testers will be testing that, they will be raising many bugs, and then it will go to release 2, then release 3. It will all be happening internally, the user will not have access until that. So in release 10, we can keep it an example, this application went into production. Sorry for my spelling. This application went into production. What it means, like in release 10, they have deployed the application for the users, or they have deployed the application in customers environment. Like ICCA will automatically start using that for its customers. So the customers can be send money, withdraw money, all these things. In release 10, application is being deployed into production. So once it deployed into production, after this, all the releases will be called as like it is in maintenance phase. Yes, they will be continuously doing many changes. They will be making some cosmetic changes, they will be making some application overall view changes, they will be making radio button to checkbox, etc., etc. So this from release 11 to release after this, all the releases will be called as that application is come under maintenance phase. Before this, what are all called is like it is pre-deployment phase, and this release 10 is the major release in normally in IT industry they called it as like deployment phase, so deployment release. So this release 10 is being deployed in the customer's place. So after this everything is called it as maintenance phase. So during this maintenance phase, this regression testing comes into picture more. Even in release 4, release 5, release 6, it will come, you will be testing the previous releases. But when you call it as maintenance phase is after the application is deployed in the customer production environment, and after that it is called as maintenance phase. So this banking application is very crucial. Like when you are doing this release 20 testing, you cannot ignore the testing of all the previous releases. Previous releases can be anything like a login with proper credentials, uh, many functionalities like this. It might have many functionalities in release 1, release 3 they would have released something else, something else. It goes on like that. So when you are doing release 20, you will be doing regression testing of all the 19 previous releases, because it is very crucial. So what happens, this requires lot of manual effort. So that is what you could have observed in many IT companies recently, like if they are doing only manual testing, there will be more testers than developers. In release 20, there might be only three developers. Three developers. But there might be like five testers or more than that even, because for banking they have more testers, because we have to do lot of regression testing for all these 19 releases, because you cannot miss anything in this which might be very crucial. So there will be lot of testers, and this lot of money is involved, lot of time is involved, and you cannot take any risk for this, lot of time is involved. So here this comes the picture of automation testing. So for this regression testing, what they do is they automate all these 19 release functionalities using the manual test cases, and they automate and keep. So when the release 20 is going to happen, all the 19 releases they will run the automation scripts, so that to make sure like all the functionalities in the previous 19 releases has been, there is no break. So let me explain this again in other words. Like in release 20, in current release, you are going to reduce the NEFT to 2 hours, and you are going to reduce the IMPS to not 1 hour. We will make it as like immediately. So what happens, the developer will go to this code, he will go and change this code. For example, the developer has done some modification and he has done something wrong. So this NEFT and IMPS functionality is getting issues in the release at 20. So what we have to do, like we have to check all the releases, because it can so happen like the developer can do some mistake while doing the change of functionality. So you will be doing this all the functionality. So if you have automation, if you have done automation, what they do is just execute the automation scripts overnight, and they will verify whether all the the previous releases has executed properly, or if the functionality there is no breakage in the functionality. And in release 20, the manual testers, please note this point, it is manual testers who will be doing this release 20, whether this functionality which is new functionality or this change requirement is working properly. They will write test cases for this release 20, they will execute the test cases, they will raise the issues, and it will go on. So automation testing is mainly used for regression testing, whether there is, you can note down this also, automation testing is mainly used for regression testing, whether the previous functionalities of the previous releases has not been broken. So any manual testers, I would suggest like you have to know the automation testing to be very to be in the market, so it is better to learn. So I hope you all understood like how this regression testing is, what is the difference between the manual testing and automation testing, and why manual testers are important. So you can never automate for the release 20 because it has to go soon. You cannot start automation and like that you can finish the automation and execute the automation scripts and release that release 20. So release 20 always manual testers are important. Previous releases you can automate and you can execute the scripts. So this is what I wanted to say again for the differences between manual testing and automation testing. Now we will go on to the next one, which is software development lifecycle.